All right, good Monday morning to everybody. Just going to go over a few things before I go ahead and um, give you guys time in this period here to work on a worksheet. Now, you can work on the stuff that I gave you guys last week and make sure you got that done. Work on those mass problems, even the one before that, the chemical reaction stoichiometry, because that's kind of the basis of basics of all this. And you can also work on the limiting reagents worksheets. I'm leaving you an optional worksheet today. So if you look at the assignment for today, there is a worksheet. It's optional. What that means is if you do it, you can get 10 out of 10 for it. If you don't, then it'll be like, it was never assigned. So this is basically more practice and kind of a different level of practice so you can get better at these things. And that's why I have this drawing up here to kind of like talk about how to do this worksheet. Okay, so I'm not going to do any sample problems because there's all kinds of different sample problems that I could do. But I just kind of wanted to like go ahead and diagram kind of what we've done, what we've learned, and how this worksheet's a little different than the others, right? So let's start off by looking at this diagram here and going over what basically this thing is saying. So I got this diagram that says grams of A, moles of A, moles of B, and grams of B in these boxes across the way, right? So let me go ahead and do this. Grams of A, moles of A, moles of B, and grams of B, right? These represent different quantities, different things that you can measure or calculate. The grams, let's say that substance, the A represents the substance that you're given in a problem. It could be a reactant, it could be a product. Whatever they give you in a problem, that's what A is. B is the substance you're looking for. Okay, so whenever you try to calculate whatever's B, it's, whenever the question asks how many moles of carbon dioxide or how many grams of, uh, sodium sulfate, um, when they're asking for that, that would be our substance B. Okay, once again, both A and B could be either reactants or products. It really depends on how the question is framed. Okay, so let me go ahead and get rid of these things here. Um, so I want to go over kind of how we've learned this stuff. So in the first worksheet, what we learned was that the coefficients in a chemical equation, right, these things right here, or at least I have it written right there. Those aren't coefficients, but they're written there. Represent molecules. That's what we learned in chapter 10. They represent the number of molecules that could be involved in a chemical reaction. So if you're given molecules of a certain substance that's reacting, you can calculate the molecules of something else in the chemical reaction. How do you do that? How do you turn molecules of what you're given, or molecules of A, into molecules of B? You use the coefficients. And the coefficients will allow you to go ahead and calculate that. And we did that in the first worksheet, right? So the coefficients of your chemical reaction can represent molecules, and you can make a conversion factor that represent molecule proportions or molecule ratios. Okay, so that's where we start off with. We also said that we can extrapolate that, or we can go ahead and expand that to represent moles. So you can convert moles of A to moles of B, also using the coefficients. Okay, so that's what we did on the first worksheet. Sometimes you were given molecules of A, right here, and you were asked to come up with molecules of B. Sometimes you're given moles of A and asked to come up with moles of B. These are question marks here. Okay, so that was the first worksheet. It was just one step. Okay, you will notice though that the grams, moles, molecules, and grams are three different ways we have of writing down how much of a substance we've got. And the moles can be converted using coefficients. The molecules can be converted using coefficients. But you'll notice the grams are way out here. Grams are over here and over here. They can't be converted directly. We can't use the coefficients to convert from grams of A to grams of B. So what we have to do is go from grams of A over to moles of A. Then once you have moles of A, you can use the coefficients to convert moles of B. Then once you have moles of B, you can use the coefficients to convert to grams of B. And so that's how you would go ahead and do a mass problem. And so that's basically what we've been learning. And that's your mass problem. That's why it's 3 steps, because it takes 1, 2, 3 steps to do these calculations. So 3 there. So it takes all 3 of those steps to do those calculations. Okay. So, yeah, that's pretty much what we've learned. Now, let me go ahead and get rid of this. These are the kind of steps that we use in order to do all the calculations. And that's what these worksheets basically that I've given you have kind of always kind of been kind of step by step, just doing all these things one at a time. Goodness. Okay. Now, this worksheet is a little different because on the other worksheets, if I give you moles of A, I asked you for moles of B. Once again, remember, A is what was given in the problem, the quantity that was given in the problem, and B was what you were looking for. So if I give you moles of A, I ask you for moles of B. If I gave you grams of A, I gave you grams of B. Okay, so on those worksheets, we basically said whatever the units that you were given at the beginning, you use those units at the end also, right? So that's not necessarily always the case. We can measure things in grams, moles, or molecules. And as you can see, all these things are very related. If you know the number of molecules of a substance you've got, you can go ahead and turn it into moles by dividing by Avogadro's number. Or if you're given grams, you can go ahead and turn it into moles also by using the molar mass, right? That's the conversion factor between grams and moles, the molar mass of the substance, okay? So regardless of what you're given, you can be asked for some other unit. And that's what you're going to find in this worksheet. It's going to give you practice. Some of the problems, you might be given the number of molecules of a substance, right? Molecules of A, and ask for the number of grams of the other substance. Right? So just because I gave you molecules doesn't mean I'm going to ask for molecules back. And yeah, if you just use the coefficients, you'd get the molecules of B. But you can go ahead and figure out the grams of B once you have molecules, right? So actually, there's more than one way to do these. You can go ahead and start with molecules. Dividing by Avogadro's number will turn that into moles. Then using the coefficients, you can get how many moles of B there are. Then once you have moles of B, you can go ahead and multiply by the molar mass. And that would get you your grams of B. And that would answer the question. So you start off the question being given molecules, and you ended up with grams. Right? There is a pathway. Actually, there's 2 pathways, as you can see here. Not only can you go from molecules to moles, but you can go from molecules of A, molecules of what you're given, to molecules of B. And then once you have molecules of B, you can turn that into moles of B by dividing by Avogadro's number. Once again, go from molecules of A to molecules of B, you can use your coefficients. Then once you get the molecules of B, you can turn it into moles of B. And then once you have moles of B, just like before, you can turn it into grams of B. Right? So there's 2 different ways you can go about doing that. There's not just one way. So you kind of find a path through here. Okay, so that's the way you can do one of the problems. Or let's say you start off by being given grams of a substance, then ask for moles of the substance. Well, you're given grams, so you're starting off here, and you're just asked for moles of another substance. That's right here. Okay, don't overthink this. All it is turning your grams into moles by dividing by the molar mass. And then once you have the moles of that, then you use the coefficients to go ahead and figure out your moles of B, whatever you're looking for. And it's that simple, right? So just a couple steps. Um, Sometimes I can ask you for how many molecules, and you just turn the moles into molecules by multiplying by Avogadro's number. It's even possible to ask for it to have you to give you something else, like for example, volume of a liquid. Okay. Let's say you have the volume of a liquid over here. That's another measurement. That could be like, for example, milliliters. And what you can do is you can go ahead and turn the volume of a liquid in milliliters. Let's say the volume of A. You can turn it into grams by using the density. Remember, D is equal to M over V, and M is your mass, grams. So if you know the density of the substance, you know the volume, you can plug it into this equation and figure out the grams. So here we go. We'd have the volume here, and then maybe you're asked for how many molecules of the uh, other substance you'll end up with. So you go ahead and turn your volume into grams. Then once you have grams, if you know the substance, you can use the molar mass to turn it into moles. Then from here, you can decide if you want to turn moles of the substance into moles of what you're looking for, and then moles of what you're looking for into the molecules. Or you can go the other way, and once you have moles of A over here, you can directly turn into molecules of A by multiplying by Avogadro's number. And then once you have that, you can use the coefficients to turn into molecules of B. Okay. So, just trying to find the different ways of doing this. You can go ahead and take down this chart right here that shows the relationship between all these um, quantities, grams, moles, and molecules, and even volume. Okay. And there's more out there, but right now we're not working with those. Okay. So this worksheet that you're being assigned today, once again, it's an optional assignment. You don't have to do it. I think it's good practice though, because they give you units that you're not used to using, or even if you are used to using them, the units that you're given may not be the units that you're asked for, right? You may be given grams of a substance and asked for molecules of another substance. You might be given milliliters of a substance and asked for grams of another substance. You might start with moles. They might start you off giving moles and just ask for molecules, and that's just either here and here, or doing this calculation and this calculation. Okay, so if people have questions, you can ask me when I get back on Tuesday. But I think this is good practice to get you thinking about how do I make each of these conversions. Right? So I hope you have a good day, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.